Toyota, GM, and Ford are flipping the script on a century-old tradition, ditching dealerships and taking full control of car sales.
Toyota's
General Motors,
Ford company has just launched a new online shop that will thrill car buffs everywhere.
This isn't just a bold move, it's a declaration of war on the middlemen who built their empires. Dealers are furious, customers are divided, and industry insiders are calling it the biggest shakeup in car history. Is this the dawn of a streamlined, digital future, or a ruthless power grab that could backfire spectacularly? Stay tuned, because this goes much deeper than you expect. The dealership dominance. A dying era? And for more than 100 years, the dealership model has been the backbone of the car buying experience. Customers walk into gleaming showrooms, shake hands with a salesperson, engage in nerve-wracking negotiations, and eventually leave with the keys to their new car. It's a system that has defined the automotive industry for decades. But what if this iconic model is on the verge of extinction? Recent developments indicate that Toyota, General Motors, and Ford, three of the world's biggest automakers, are seriously considering dismantling their traditional dealership networks. Imagine this: no more sprawling car lots, no more middlemen, and no more haggling over prices. Instead, these automotive giants aim to sell their vehicles directly to customers. It's a bold move. But why now? What's driving this seismic shift? Industry experts suggest the answer lies in control. Control over pricing, customer data, and brand perception. By eliminating dealerships, manufacturers can set uniform prices, offer streamlined purchasing experiences, and manage customer relationships more effectively. But is it really that simple? Could this shift be less about innovation and more about maximizing corporate profits? Mary Barra, CEO of General Motors, recently addressed this controversy in a high-profile interview. The dealership model as it exists today is outdated. Customers want transparency, simplicity, and convenience. The digital era demands it, she said. Barra's comments were applauded by some, but they've left others fuming, particularly the dealers who feel betrayed by the very manufacturers they've loyally represented for decades. Consider this: dealerships are not just middlemen, they're pillars of local economies. Many have operated as family-owned businesses for generations, providing jobs, supporting communities, and fostering customer relationships that span lifetimes. So, is it fair, or even ethical, for automakers to cut them out of the picture entirely? One dealership owner from Michigan, who wished to remain anonymous, didn't hold back. We've poured millions into our facilities, our staff, and our customer base, and now these corporations are turning their backs on us. It's a slap in the face, he said. But this raises an even bigger question. Is the dealership model truly broken, or are manufacturers simply looking for a convenient scapegoat? The Tesla effect, a blueprint for change. In the world of car sales, one name looms large: Tesla. The electric vehicle pioneer has never relied on traditional dealerships, instead opting to sell cars directly to customers through its minimalist showrooms and online platforms. What started as an unorthodox approach has now become a potential blueprint for the entire industry. Tesla's success has been nothing short of remarkable. By cutting out dealerships, the company has achieved unparalleled control over its pricing, branding, and customer interactions. For years, critics dismissed Tesla's direct-to-consumer model as unsustainable. But with Tesla now leading the global EV market, traditional automakers like Toyota, GM, and Ford can no longer afford to ignore it. Ford CEO Jim Farley acknowledged as much in a recent CNBC segment. Tesla has set a new benchmark for how cars are bought and sold. The question isn't whether we adapt, it's how quickly we can, he said. However, replicating Tesla's success is easier said than done. Unlike Tesla, which built its direct-to-consumer model from scratch, legacy automakers are burdened by decades of entrenched dealership networks. Unwinding these relationships is not only a logistical nightmare, but also a legal and ethical minefield. Consider this: in the United States alone, there are nearly 17,000 new car dealerships employing over 2 million people. Many of these dealerships have invested millions of dollars in their facilities, inventory, and staff, all under the assumption that they'd have the backing of the automakers they represent. The National Automobile Dealers Association, a powerful lobbying group, has been quick to push back against this trend. In a blistering statement, they argued, Tesla's model works for Tesla because it was designed that way from the start. You can't just rip the dealership model out of a century-old system without causing widespread chaos. But chaos might be exactly what automakers are willing to risk. Why? Because direct-to-consumer sales promise bigger profits. By cutting out the middleman, manufacturers can pocket the full retail price of each vehicle. Additionally, they gain unprecedented control over their brand's image and the customer experience. Yet, this shift isn't just about economics. It's about power. Dealerships have long acted as independent businesses, sometimes challenging automakers on pricing, warranties, and service policies. By eliminating them, manufacturers can consolidate control over every aspect of the car buying process. But is that level of control good for consumers? This brings us to the heart of the controversy, the impact on customers. A recent survey found that while over 60% of buyers appreciate the convenience of online shopping, a significant portion still values the traditional dealership experience. Test drives, face-to-face negotiations, and the ability to walk out if the price isn't right. Can a digital platform ever truly replace these elements? One customer advocacy group isn't convinced. In a strongly worded statement, they warned, without dealerships, manufacturers gain monopolistic control over pricing. Consumers lose the ability to negotiate, and the dream of competition driving down prices becomes a thing of the past. And let's not forget the human element. For many people, buying a car is more than a transaction. It's an emotional experience. It's about sitting in the driver's seat for the first time, feeling the leather, hearing the engine purr. Can a click of a button ever replicate that? Even Elon Musk, the architect of Tesla's direct sales model, has acknowledged its limitations. In a rare admission, he tweeted, "Direct sales are efficient, but not without challenges. Customer trust and satisfaction must always come first." The question is, can automakers like Toyota, GM, and Ford maintain that trust as they navigate this complex transition? Dealership rebellion, the fight to survive. As Toyota, GM, and Ford plot their course toward a direct-to-consumer future, dealerships aren't sitting quietly on the sidelines. In fact, they're gearing up for what could be one of the most significant industry battles in recent history. But can these businesses, some of which have been around for generations, actually fight back against their corporate overlords? Dealership owners and associations across the country are voicing their outrage, calling the automakers' plans a betrayal. These businesses have invested billions collectively to meet manufacturers' demands, from flashy showroom upgrades to meeting stringent branding guidelines. Now they feel blindsided by a shift that threatens their livelihoods. "I've been a Ford dealer for over 30 years, says Steve Collins, a dealer in Ohio. "We've stood by this company through recessions, product recalls, and the 2008 financial crisis. And now they're just throwing us to the wolves?" The sentiment isn't isolated. The National Automobile Dealers Association has launched a full-scale lobbying campaign to challenge the automakers' plans. Their key argument: cutting out dealerships doesn't just harm the businesses themselves, it harms the communities they serve. But think about it. Dealerships aren't just about selling cars, they're economic engines. They employ salespeople, mechanics, administrative staff, and more. Many sponsor local events, support charities, and even contribute to public services through taxes. Eliminating them could devastate small-town economies across the country. But automakers argue that change is inevitable. They insist the dealership model no longer aligns with modern consumer preferences, pointing to data showing a growing appetite for online purchases. However, not everyone agrees with this interpretation. Innovation is one thing, but dismantling an entire industry under the guise of progress is reckless, says Tim Jackson, CEO of the Colorado Automobile Dealers Association. There's a way to evolve without erasing decades of partnership. Could the manufacturers and dealers find middle ground? Some suggest hybrid models where dealerships transition into service and delivery hubs rather than full-fledged sales operations. But such compromises come with their own challenges, including financial losses for dealers and logistical headaches for automakers. This struggle isn't just playing out in boardrooms, it's also making waves in courtrooms. Several states have laws protecting franchise dealerships, making it illegal for automakers to sell directly to consumers. These laws, originally designed to prevent monopolistic practices, are now the last line of defense for many dealers. Take Michigan, for example, where Tesla famously battled for years to sell directly to customers. While the company ultimately found a workaround, the legal precedent highlights how contentious this issue has become. With Toyota, GM, and Ford jumping into the fray, expect more courtroom drama to unfold. The consumer divide, winners or losers? Amid this upheaval, one question looms large. What does all of this mean for the average car buyer? Automakers claim that cutting out dealerships will simplify the car buying process, but critics warn it might come at a steep price. To understand this, we need to dissect what dealerships actually bring to the table. For one, they foster competition. When multiple dealerships vie for a customer's business, prices tend to drop. In a direct-to-consumer model, that competitive pressure disappears. Without dealerships, automakers have the power to set fixed prices. While some see this as a way to eliminate haggling, a notorious pain point for many buyers, others worry it could lead to monopolistic pricing. What's stopping them from charging whatever they want? Asked consumer advocate Lisa Harding. There's also the issue of service. Dealerships often provide maintenance packages, warranties, and customer support as part of the buying experience. If these responsibilities shift entirely to manufacturers, can they handle the increased demand? Or will customers be left navigating faceless online systems for help? Take the case of Sarah Martinez, a Toyota owner from California. She recently needed warranty repairs for her vehicle, but found herself bounced between the dealership and the manufacturer for answers. It was a nightmare, she says. If Toyota can't manage this now, how will they handle everything when dealerships are gone? Proponents of direct sales argue that automakers will rise to the challenge, pointing to Tesla as proof. Tesla's service model, while not without its flaws, relies heavily on mobile service units and remote diagnostics. Could legacy automakers replicate this system? I think they have no choice, says Mark Fields, former CEO of Ford. Customer expectations are changing. If manufacturers can't deliver seamless service, they'll lose market share, plain and simple. But critics point out a crucial difference. Scale. Tesla, while dominant in the EV market, produces far fewer vehicles than Toyota, GM, or Ford. Scaling Tesla's model to fit the volume of these automakers could be a logistical nightmare. And then there's the question of accessibility. Online sales and direct deliveries might work well in urban areas, but what about rural customers? For decades, dealerships have acted as touch points for communities far from major cities. Removing them could leave these buyers underserved. Some consumers, however, welcome the change. For tech-savvy buyers who value convenience over tradition, the prospect of ordering a car online and having it delivered to their doorstep is appealing. I don't need to test drive 10 cars or deal with pushy salespeople, says Jason Green, a software engineer in Seattle. I just want to click, pay, and drive. Yet even among supporters of direct sales, concerns linger about transparency. Without dealerships to act as intermediaries, buyers worry they'll have less recourse if something goes wrong. After all, who do you turn to when the seller is also the judge, jury, and executioner? One thing is clear, this shift will not please everyone. While some consumers may embrace the simplicity of direct sales, others will mourn the loss of a system that, for all its flaws, gave them options and a sense of agency. As the debate rages on, it's worth asking, who really benefits from this transformation? Is it the customers or is it the corporations? A new era or a corporate land grab? As Toyota, GM, and Ford march toward eliminating dealerships, a growing number of critics argue this isn't about innovation or convenience. It's about power. Could this shift be less about serving customers and more about monopolizing the market? Direct-to-consumer sales give automakers unprecedented control over pricing, branding, and customer data. Without dealers acting as middlemen, manufacturers can dictate the entire car buying process from start to finish. While this might sound efficient, it also concentrates power in the hands of a few corporations. When you cut out dealerships, you're not just removing a middleman, you're removing competition, says Antonia Wilson, a legal analyst who specializes in antitrust law. Manufacturers can fix prices, control supply, and even dictate terms of service without any checks and balances. Imagine a future where you can only buy a Toyota, Ford, or GM vehicle at the price set by the manufacturer. No haggling, no discounts, and no competing offers from rival dealerships. For customers, this could mean higher prices and fewer options. It's no wonder state governments are stepping in to challenge these plans. Laws protecting franchise dealerships have existed for decades, originally designed to prevent monopolistic practices and ensure fair competition. With this new push toward direct sales, these laws are being tested like never before. One high-profile example is Florida, where lawmakers are debating a bill that could redefine the relationship between manufacturers and dealerships. The proposed legislation would allow automakers to establish their own retail outlets, but only if they adhere to the same rules as independent dealers. Critics, however, argue this doesn't go far enough to protect small businesses. Is this truly about modernization, or is it a corporate land grab disguised as progress? What's next for dealerships? If the traditional dealership model is dying, what comes next for the thousands of businesses that have relied on it for survival? Could dealerships reinvent themselves, or are they destined for extinction? One possibility is a pivot to service-oriented models. Instead of acting as sales hubs, dealerships could focus on providing maintenance, repairs, and other after-sale services. But this transition is far from simple. Many dealerships rely heavily on new car sales to stay afloat. Service departments alone can't sustain most dealerships, explains Greg Thompson, a veteran dealer consultant. The margins are too thin, and the competition from independent repair shops is fierce. Another option is for dealerships to become delivery and test drive centers for automakers. Under this model, customers could order their vehicles online, but visit a local dealership to pick them up or take a test drive. While this approach preserves some role for dealers, it significantly reduces their profitability and autonomy, and not all dealerships are willing to adapt. Some are taking their fight to the courtroom, suing automakers for breach of contract and unfair business practices. These lawsuits could set critical precedents for how far manufacturers can go in cutting ties with their dealer networks. Take the ongoing legal battle in Texas, where a group of dealerships has filed a class action lawsuit against GM. The dealers argue that the company's plans to sell electric vehicles directly to consumers violate existing franchise agreements. The outcome of this case could have far-reaching implications for the entire industry. The question remains, can dealerships evolve quickly enough to survive this transformation, or will they be swept away by the tide of change? Are electric vehicles driving the shift? One factor that often goes unnoticed in this controversy is the role of electric vehicles. Could the rise of EVs be the real reason behind Toyota, GM, and Ford's push toward direct sales? EVs represent a fundamentally different product than traditional gasoline-powered cars. They require less maintenance, have fewer mechanical parts, and rely heavily on software updates for performance improvements. This makes the traditional dealership model less relevant, as EVs don't need the same level of service and repair. For automakers, this is a golden opportunity to reshape the industry. By selling EVs directly, manufacturers can control the customer experience from start to finish, ensuring that buyers remain loyal to their brand for software updates, charging solutions, and other services. Tesla has already perfected this model. When customers buy a Tesla, they're not just buying a car, they're buying into an ecosystem. From the supercharger network to over-the-air software updates, Tesla ensures its customers remain tied to the brand long after the initial purchase. Legacy automakers are now scrambling to replicate this success. By ditching dealerships, they can build similar ecosystems around their EV offerings. But this shift isn't without challenges. For one, many dealerships are ill-equipped to handle EVs, lacking the necessary charging infrastructure and technical expertise. There's a steep learning curve, says Rachel Chen, an automotive analyst. Many dealerships are struggling to keep up with the rapid pace of EV adoption. Manufacturers see this as an opportunity to take control, but it comes at a cost. The cost isn't just financial, it's also cultural. For decades, dealerships have been the face of automakers, providing a personal touch that online platforms can't replicate. Will customers feel the same level of connection to a brand when their only interaction is through a website? The EV revolution is undeniably reshaping the automotive landscape, but as Toyota, GM, and Ford race to catch up with Tesla, one has to wonder, is this about innovation, or are they using EVs as an excuse to consolidate power? The global ripple effect, more than just an American story. While much of the controversy surrounding the direct-to-consumer sales model centers on the United States, the implications are rippling across the globe. Automotive markets in Europe, Asia, and beyond are watching closely as Toyota, GM, and Ford dismantle the dealership model. But will this strategy work universally, or does it risk alienating key international markets? In Europe, the dealership model has long been intertwined with strict consumer protection laws. Countries like Germany and France have regulations that guarantee buyers access to local sales and service facilities. Cutting dealerships in these markets would require automakers to navigate a labyrinth of legal and cultural barriers. Interestingly, some European automakers like Volvo are experimenting with similar strategies. Volvo recently announced plans to move to an entirely online sales model for its electric vehicles. "The future is digital," said Volvo CEO Jim Rowan in a recent interview. "Our customers demand convenience, and we must adapt to stay relevant." Asia presents an entirely different challenge. In countries like Japan, dealerships are deeply ingrained in the community fabric. Japanese automakers, including Toyota, have historically relied on keiretsu systems, networks of interdependent businesses, to maintain strong local ties. Moving to a direct sales model could disrupt these relationships, sparking backlash not just from dealers, but also from loyal customers. Meanwhile, in China, the world's largest car market, the direct-to-consumer approach is already gaining traction. Homegrown EV manufacturers like NIO and BYD are pioneering direct sales, bypassing traditional dealerships altogether. This success is likely influencing global giants like Toyota, GM, and Ford to accelerate their plans. But is this one-size-fits-all approach sustainable? The cultural, legal, and economic differences between markets make it a risky proposition. If automakers misstep, they could alienate not just dealers, but entire customer bases. Technology and the future of car buying. Technology is at the heart of the debate over direct-to-consumer sales. With the rise of e-commerce and digital platforms, car buyers now have access to more information than ever before. But does more information translate to a better buying experience? On one hand, digital platforms promise transparency. Customers can compare prices, read reviews, and even customize their vehicles, all from the comfort of their homes. Automakers argue this empowers buyers, giving them unprecedented control over the purchasing process. But critics warn that digital convenience comes at a cost. Online platforms often lack the human touch that dealerships provide. Buying a car isn't just a transaction, it's an experience, says automotive journalist Sarah Lopez. You can't replicate the feeling of sitting in a car, talking to a knowledgeable salesperson, or negotiating a deal in person. There's also the question of trust. For decades, dealerships have acted as intermediaries between manufacturers and customers, providing a layer of accountability. If a car has issues, customers can turn to the dealership for resolution. Without this buffer, buyers are left dealing directly with massive corporations that may not always have their best interests at heart. Another concern is accessibility. While digital platforms are convenient for tech-savvy buyers, they may exclude older customers or those without reliable internet access. We're at risk of creating a two-tiered system where only the digitally connected have access to the best deals, warns consumer advocate Maria Carter. Despite these challenges, technology is reshaping the way people buy cars. Virtual showrooms, augmented reality tools, and even AI-powered chatbots are making it easier for customers to explore their options. The question is whether these advancements will enhance the buying experience or simply make it more impersonal. The future of the automotive industry. As Toyota, GM, and Ford forge ahead with their plans, one thing is clear: the automotive industry is on the brink of a revolution, but revolutions are rarely smooth. The winners of this transformation are likely to be the automakers themselves. By consolidating control over pricing, branding, and customer data, these companies stand to boost their profits significantly. Tesla's success proves that direct-to-consumer sales can work, and legacy automakers are eager to replicate that model. But what about the losers? For dealerships, the outlook is grim. Thousands of businesses could shutter, displacing millions of workers and leaving a gaping hole in local economies. Customers too stand to lose if this shift results in higher prices, less competition, and a more impersonal buying experience. And then there's the question of innovation. Will direct sales spur automakers to improve their products and services? Or will the lack of competition lead to complacency? Without dealerships pushing back, who will hold manufacturers accountable? As the dust settles, the automotive industry will look very different than it does today. But whether this transformation benefits customers, communities, or corporations remains to be seen. The battle between automakers and dealerships is far from over, and its outcome will shape the future of car buying for years to come. Will this new model deliver on its promises of convenience and transparency, or will it leave customers and communities in the dust? We want to hear your thoughts. Is this the beginning of a new era or the end of a trusted tradition? Drop your opinions in the comments below. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the controversy shaking the car market, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Hit that bell icon so you never miss an update on the stories that matter most. Until next time, drive safe and stay informed.